Alaska without Europe. How Russian propaganda sells peace without intermediaries and without Ukraine. On the evening broadcast of August 10, 2025, Vladimir Solovyov again played out his favorite play about how Russia and the United States are allegedly preparing to conclude a big deal behind the backs of Europe and Ukraine. This time, the scenery was a message about the upcoming meeting between Putin and Trump in Alaska. The choice of location is presented as a symbol: America and Russia, one-on-one, without unnecessary witnesses. The main target of the broadcast is Europe as a parasite and a hindrance, and Ukraine as grass trampled by elephants. Propaganda builds a simple and convenient structure. The West, they say, is tired of war. Trump showed Europe its place, and the future of Ukraine will be decided without it. First, political theater of the meeting in Alaska. The story about the upcoming meeting is accompanied by a set of images: hysteria of European leaders, humiliated requests for mediation, helpless attempts to bargain for a place at the table. Europe is shown as a supplicant, the United States as the master of the situation, Russia as America's equal partner. This technique is a deliberate substitution of reality. In reality, neither the White House nor the State Department confirmed either the date or the format of such a meeting. Triple. Europe as an enemy in the guise of a mediator. The airwaves constantly repeat, Europe cannot be a mediator. It is not neutral and therefore must be excluded from any negotiations. Then comes the list of accusations: attacks on Russian cities, terrorist strikes, military support for Ukraine, direct words from Germany about preparing for war with Russia. This is a classic delegitimization scheme. First, Europe is accused of aggression, then of immorality, silence about Crocus, Odessa, Nord Stream, and finally, of hypocrisy and corruption. Third, Ukraine as a blade of grass under the feet of elephants. The metaphor of the Prime Minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico, is also heard on the air: when elephants fight, the grass suffers. Here, the elephants are the United States and Russia, and the grass is Ukraine. All responsibility for the war is shifted to the Ukrainian authorities, who gave in to the persuasion of the West. Thus, propaganda suggests that Ukraine is not a subject, but an expendable resource in someone else's game. Fourth, peace as an instrument of capitulation. Solovyev and the guests of the program talk about the need for an immediate cessation of hostilities, but with an important caveat: without the intervention of other Western players. A truce, according to this logic, should be a direct deal between Washington and Moscow, with the terms of peace determined only by these two parties. Ukraine in this construction is a silent object that will only have to accept someone else's decision. It says, elephants fight or love each other, the grass always suffers. No matter how the elephant talks go on August 15th, the grass will suffer. In this case, Ukraine. Ukrainian political leaders are to some extent responsible for this state of affairs, since they succumbed to the West's persuasion and fully supported the failed Western strategy of hurting Russia by fully supporting Ukraine in the military conflict. What will happen in the coming weeks will not be rosy. However, two things are most important. First, agree on an immediate cessation of hostilities and put an end to the senseless killing of Slavs. Second, do not allow other Western players to interfere with any possible ceasefire agreement. The war will end one day anyway, and then you will see how all those who shouted the most disgusting words about Russia will run to this huge country and hope to track down Trump. But Dmitry has said many times that the center of the Democratic Party has de facto moved to Europe, and Trump is attacking from there. Already now, they have been constantly throwing at us that the meeting will take place in the Vatican, the meeting will take place in Rome, the meeting will take place in Europe. But why do we need this? Why do we need the Vatican, Rome, Europe under any circumstances? That is, we must humiliate ourselves and ask them, could you not impose restrictions on the issued arrest warrant and allow us to fly? Why? But this constant throwing in of what has already been repeatedly told to Russia, no, you all cannot be mediators under any circumstances. You are not neutral. For Europe, a signal of exclusion. The main political message of the broadcast is clear. Europe is excluded from the big deal. Its role is reduced to zero. Ukraine is collateral damage, and the future is decided by the United States and Russia. This is informational preparation for the scenario of a new division of spheres of influence without the participation of those whom it directly affects. It is important for European countries to understand that such statements are not random emotions of the presenter. These are built-in elements of foreign policy pressure. Their goal is to convince Europeans that they are powerless and push them to passively accept decisions that will be made without them.